Hello everybody out there in YouTube and Twitch land, and welcome to another campaign retrospective. This is like an open roundtable sort of discussion with me in Twitch chat as I talk about a topic and I add in their thoughts and opinions as the game goes. As the video goes, and I talk about it. And thank you for your support and all your kind words on the Scarlet Keys video I did on this. So we're doing here on Edge of the Earth. And maybe the other campaigns, I feel like I've talked about all these other campaigns a lot though, but we have Edge of the Earth where I haven't actually done another video on it since my initial review. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it for the next however long, but why don't we dive in and get this show on the road. Okay, so I want to just say something, my theory, this is what I call the Elder Scrolls theory, that generally your first Elder Scrolls game is your favorite, right? For example, Eric's first Elder Scroll game was Morrowind, and Eric loves the hell out of Morrowind. My first Elder Scroll games was Oblivion, and that's the one that I look back at with the most fondness. I love the hell out of Oblivion, right? And I think that ARKHAM, not like fully exactly like that, but it definitely is going to put you into a point of what your favorite is. And I think that a lot of people actually, their first time playing ARKHAM is probably going to be actually Edge of the Earth, which is a little bit funky to say, but this was the first box in the new re-release format, like the new format which splits Investigator and Campaign boxes. And a lot of that, for that reason, it's a campaign that I imagine a lot of new players hopping back on ARKHAM have played, rather than waiting for the reboxes, which were announced pretty quick after Edge of the Earth was, if I remember correctly. But I think that Edge of the Earth, because of this, they had that in mind, and they actually made a pretty good campaign for new players. It has a lot of cool stuff going for it, and I think if it's your first ARKHAM campaign, it does a really good job of setting the scene for what ARKHAM is. I think that's kind of really cool about Edge of the Earth. I think what we should do is, there's a lot to talk about here, and if you watch any of our videos, you know that I am very prone to going off track and losing my train of thought. So I think what we should do is we should just start by talking about the special mechanics in Edge of the Earth first, and then we're going to start going. I will say before we go any deeper, that there are going to be spoilers for Edge of the Earth throughout this. There's going to be a lot of spoilers. And there is going to be spoilers for basically every campaign. There's spoilers from top to bottom. This is my idea of a deeper retrospective. So that is where we're going to be, nothing's off limits. So there might be spoilers for any of the other campaigns, or like just even custom campaigns. This video, while Edge of the Earth is for new players, this video I would say is not for new players because you might get spoiled. So just a little bit of a warning, because I will relate to other campaigns. It's only natural when discussing about the design of this game, which this is kind of a video all about. Alright, Frost Tokens. So Frost Tokens are these cute little guys over here. And there's infinite, so don't worry, we'll never run out. They are going to go in your token bag. And they have a -1 modifier, and then when you draw it, you have to draw another token. So it's kind of like a baby curse token. We saw the fact of that in that this came out after Innsmouth, so it kind of touches on that same sort of feeling. So we expected all that, but it also has an additional thing where if you draw 2 frost tokens in one test, it's an automatic fail. It doesn't matter if they're they don't have to be one after another. So if you draw a frost token into a curse token into a frost token, congratulations, you just removed a frost token. A curse token from the bag, but your frost tokens caused you to fail. I think it's a quite simple mechanic, right? I think that the whole frost token thing is pretty basic for a mechanic, and I think it's also pretty good for a mechanic. It becomes one of those things where you have to hope or pray or work hard to not get more frost tokens, or alternatively take frost tokens out. And if a certain thing happens to a certain partner, that becomes a little bit trickier. There's a big difference in an Edge of the Earth campaign if you have a lot of Frost tokens and if you have very few Frost tokens, which I actually really enjoy because it provides a sort of replayability without actually adding more mechanical complexity. It's just an aspect of your campaign that you might have to deal with more of. I don't really have anything negative to say about Frost tokens. I think that, I mean, and honestly, some slight spoilers, I actually don't have a lot of negative things to say about Edge of the Earth. It's one of those things where I actually think Edge of the Earth is a pretty good campaign. There's a lot of really nice stuff going on it, and the downsides are kind of really only there. I mean, apart from the final scenario, I don't like the final scenario. We'll get there. But my biggest problem with Edge of the Earth, and you guessed it, it is the amount of reading you need to do, is completely nullified on the repeat playthroughs. So you can kind of just like have fun playing good scenarios. Whereas in Scarlet Keys, a lot of the scenarios are just mid in my mind. There's a lot of scenarios that I think that are actually like pretty damn good in Edge of the Earth. I think they're pretty sweet for that. But yeah, I think Frost tokens, I like how there's the weakness that makes them harder. I like that locations interact with them. I like that it sometimes causes you to want to put Frost tokens in the bag to do that. I think Frost tokens are a winner chicken dinner sort of mechanic. I think they're absolutely great. They're super simple. They're not like a heavy thing you need to keep track of. You just put them in and take them out. It's super sick. Nothing negative to say about Frost tokens. I love them. I think they're great. And they also add uncertainty to your token draws, which is even better. All right, on to the next one, which is the Tekalilis. Tekalilis. Okay, let's spread these motherfuckers. Let's go. Look at them. All right. So, this is the embodiment of ice milk. If you don't know what ice milk is, well, you know, your loss. But these are where you're going to get weaknesses into your deck that carry over from scenario to scenario. And when you draw them, they have a negative effect. They're put into your deck in a variety of different ways, most commonly through the goopy ice milk enemies as you are playing. I actually think the Tekalilis are a very interesting sort of design. I think the mechanic is good. I do think that overall, I think the Tekalilis are, in my mind, a winner of a mechanic. I do have issues with it, and I think it's mostly that it's skewed too heavily on the fighter, right? It's like one of those things where it's like looking at Haunted from Circle Undone, right? In theory, Haunted exists to punish Seekers, who at that point were doing pretty good. But it doesn't punish Seekers. It punishes rogues and survivors who have to spend more time doing the thing. So once again, as it goes, the clue getter gets to go through impeded, just grabbing clues, just moving around, and just, you know, doing their job. When the fighter, who is the more reactive and urgent role. While the Clover is dictating the pace of the game, the fighter is making sure you don't lose, right? It's making sure that pace can continue to be kept, right? So, like, the fighter, who is just doing their job, is getting punished and then eating up draws. Add on to this, Seekers, once again, have fantastic card draw. So they get to just draw their cards and not get punished while not getting any Tekalilis in their deck. And like the Guardians, the Survivors, the Rogues, the Mystics, who have little worse card draw, like maybe not the Rogues, Rogue card draw is really good. But without them being able to tap into that, a Tekalili hurts them more. So while I think the idea and mechanic behind the Tekalili is super sweet, I do wish that it affected Cloovers more than it does. I don't think it needs to be like because right now it's like 70-30, right? It's like maybe even 80-20, to be honest. It's like 70-30 goons, and it should be 50-50. in an optimal world, you know? I like that there are encounter cards that make Tekalilis terrifying. I like that there are the ones like, for example, the one where you have to resolve them twice. Like that's actually all they need. Guerreric Sample Games is 100% right. Just like when you investigate this location, take a Tekalili. Or alternatively, something like if you investigate this location and discover one or like a more than one clue during this investigation action, shuffle a Tekalili into your deck, right? Like actually punish burst clues, because that's the way you punish Seekers. It's burst clue punishing, right? And yeah, I think there's a pretty good spread. 3 of the damage and horror, discard a card, lose 2 resources, lose an action. I mean, these 2 are like the hard one, right? The lose an action and discard an asset. These are the ones that I hate the most to get, but they're like manageable. But I think that none of them are particularly oppressive. I think they're good. I like the Tekalilis. I like seeing the progress where you are like at the start of the scenario, you're like, okay, we have 3 Tekalilis left in the deck. And then at the end of it, you're like, oh, there's actually now 7 in the deck. So over the course of this, we got stuff added, but we removed 4 of them. There's a cool level of like player progress that you can track with the Tekalilis, which is particularly neat to them. And yes, it was pretty wild when I got absolutely bodied by the Tekalilis. That was I think they're good. Once again, I don't have a lot of negative things to say about them. Just the Guardian thing. I say Guardian, but I mean Fighter, right? I do wish that the spread was a bit more even. Just because it's just annoying. Like, I understand in theory why you don't want to punish the person who progresses the game. Because in theory, it might make someone not want to progress the game, right? It might be like, okay, why am I doing this when this is bad? When you could be like, in theory, progressing the game should always be good. But I don't think that theory is ultimately true. I think that we needed more damage on like the clue side from Tekalilis. And yes, I will also say that they are kind of annoying to play with sleeves. We have a workaround when we did it. We had a workaround when we did it where we just put like we had our Tekalili deck, but we also had a bunch of sleeves with like a card inside out like this. I'll just show you. So like we had a bunch set aside where we had them like this. So then when we drew one of these from our deck, we just drew the top card of our Tekalilis. And like that's a way to manage it, but it's not. It is a little bit fiddly to play with them in paper. But yeah, I really wish that's my only wish. But otherwise, I like playing with Tekalilis. I like getting them into my deck. I like the fact that you don't know what they are. I like the fact that there's also a lot of counterplay against Tekalilis. I think that's why these mechanics, both Frost tokens and Tekalilis, ultimately work, because they're actually kind of like just pure feel-bad mechanics, but there's a lot of counterplay to be able to manage and control each of them, which means that you're not as just straight up fucked by them, right? It's one of those things. All right, next up on the list, we got partners. Spread. Rows of 8, huh? All right, the partner mechanic. Woo! Woo! All right, we're not going to talk about any of the story shit related with them right now. We're only going to talk about like the gameplay mechanical sense. We're not going to talk about the characters or the story and all that for this part right now. I mean, I think this is a good mechanic. I don't really have anything to say. I do like that you can get attached to them through gameplay, right? Or just through picture, right? Like, Bryn is basically will die for Elia, right? And just because of the art and the story, right? Like, it's just like this, like what this card tells, you know? And I think that's really cool. And I think that is a lot more exciting than, again, reading all about these characters in a campaign guide, right? I like that you can forge a bond with them through their abilities, right? You're like, oh, Avery Claypool's ability can stop us from doing frost tokens. Danforth helps us with Tekalilis. Takata gives us resources. Cookie's got a gun, you know? All these things that you can mechanically get through the character, which I think are really, really cool. I like that also that some of them, for example, our good friend Cookie and our good friend Professor William Dyer, or even like Dr. Mala, Dr. Kensler, Roald Ellsworth, and where's one more, and Danforth, have lower of 1 stat, which means like it means like there's those treacheries that deal direct damage or horror or whatever it is. Like there's the one that deals direct damage and there's one that attaches to a partner and deals them horror each turn. Means that you need to like go out of your way to save your partner. So I think that like the emergent gameplay that comes with that kind of stuff is like the emergent narrative gameplay that comes out of that stuff is really cool. There's a few things that I actually kind of like. I understand why. Like the defeat kills your partner. I understand why that happens. But I wish instead it like just dealt them damage and horror, right? Like I wish that they could like accrue trauma. I just feel like I understand them dying is also a positive because you can get rewards, you know? You can get rewards and you can like also unlock the Fatal Mirage scenario. Which I think is like good. Like obviously them dying is good, but I do wish that because like if you want the partners to live, the 100% correct choice, apart from like play well, is just leave them back, you know? And I feel like if instead you were forced to take partners, but you were able to like they didn't die because of this. And I understand there's like there's like a bunch of stuff like the achievements that can come with it. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where like the partner dies. It doesn't really resonate with me because like why didn't I die? You know? Like I understand mechanically why it happens that way. But like narratively it's a little bit, it rubs me the wrong way, you know? But they're cool. They're cool. I like them. I only choose based on like ability, like the abilities that I like. But I also like, you know, Kensler's good ability. This guy's a good ability. Rold's very good. Takata's good. I mean, actually, I'll be honest. I think like every ally has a reason to be taken, which I think is really good. Because you got the plot armor being the protagonist, same reason why you never want to go mad in scenario 2. I don't think that's good. That's like kind of like what I'm saying. It doesn't work for me, right? It doesn't like feel like I understand that I can just swap out my character in the middle of that campaign, you know, and just like this new guy comes, it's like I've been here all along. I think that it would tell a better story if it didn't happen, you know? Like if they were like if you were defeated, you died. I would take that, you know? If they also die. But I think if I don't die when I'm defeated, they shouldn't die when they're defeated. They should get trauma like we do, and then that'll kill them over time. But I also like that you can kind of like heal them as you go. I just like they feel like they're I guess the best way of putting it, my big summing up the issue I have with them is that it's related to the book, right? Is that they don't feel like they're part of my story. They feel like they're part of their own story, right? And this is because I'm not forced to take them. They die if I do. If I don't die, if I'm defeated, they die. And that it's one of those things where like a lot of the stuff that happens with them is throughout the book. So that would probably be my biggest grief with them, is that I feel like disconnected with them even though I am forming relationships with them, right? it's kind of hard to put it that, like, to like sum up the feeling. But the idea is just that they're there, but I don't feel like we're living the same thing because they're a different piece of the puzzle. And maybe this as a criticism is kind of actually hard to put into actual effect. Like, if we think about it, how do we do that? How do we get them more involved, right? It's like, I think like Ice and Death Part 2 is the perfect blend of getting them involved. Actually, no, this is what I was thinking about when I was preparing for this video. There needed to be another scenario like Ice and Death later on. There needed to be another scenario where they showed up and you had to like do something to help them or, you know, fight them. I think it needed another thing like that. Not like Ice and Death where it was like the only part of the scenario. But like, could you imagine if there's like, you're getting to Heart of the Elders? Sorry, City of the Elder Things? City of the Elder Things? Heart of the Elders is our good friend, Forgotten Age. And suddenly you have to like fight one of the guys, right? Like they go mad and you have to like either evade them or fight them. Rather than them just die, you know? So like, yeah, instead of them just going mad in that point, instead it replaces like the enemy appears, you know? That would have been cool. Or alternatively, do what Beard always does. Or what they did in The Last King. Have them on the board, you know? Have them on the board. And like you actually, they're like story cards that you can interact with. So it's like on this mission you cannot bring partners because your partners, you actually see them in City of Elder Things doing their shit, you know? So it's like, oh, Cookie's here with a gun standing, right? And then when an enemy comes into Cookie's location, Cookie shoots it, you know? I don't know if that would be too mechanically complex, but maybe, I don't know. I just feel like that's the thing to me that's making the partners from Missing like going like to the moon. It's that Ice and Death Part 2 was really sick, but we never really got another version of that, you know? I think that's kind of the thing. What campaign did Beard do that in? Beard has story cards in like all of his campaigns. There's he does a lot of like detail painting by putting story cards into as people into the scenarios. Once you realize it, you're going to see it all the time. I only know this because when I did the interview with Beard for Cyclopean. But like Beard loves just like doing the flavor detail painting by having story cards and stuff, which I think is great because it makes the game feel alive, right? Like it makes the scenario feel like it's not just you, which I think is really good. Okay, now let's get to the elephant in the room, the reading. So like I don't think it's a surprise that the reading gets bigger the more that you get in. I think that, like, unfortunately, like mechanic creep, text creep is also a thing, right? And we see that as we go, it gets more and more. Like, maybe Dream Eaters has less than Circle, but like Dream Eaters also has more that you can miss. But I think that we ultimately see it in Edge of the Earth because they no longer are bound to an insert, you know? You're no longer bound to just an insert inside of a package. So now suddenly, an entire realm of design spaces opened, you know? And it's one of those things where I understand why it happened, you know? So because of that, this is kind of the first one where I feel like people started to notice, holy cow, this has a lot of reading. I do think, yeah, Mr. Wonderboy, you're kind of right. That because the reading is also so linear, it's hard for you to like actually be engaged in what you're reading because it's always going to be the same. It's always the same sort of thing. And I understand that like with us included, the reading stops after the blind play unless we get something new for the first time, right? But it still is, like, to me, the perfect amount was Forgotten Age. Forgotten Age has, like, the perfect amount of reading. Like, Carcosa is also pretty good, but Forgotten Age has a little bit more, enough that I'm happy with it. And I think it tells a pretty good story with all things considered. I think, like, once we get to Circle Undone, and, like, Innsmouth also, like, it doesn't have a lot of reading after and before, but it has a lot, like, also, like, the flashbacks in the scenario. And also, like, I understand as well, like, what Guerrero Samples Games is playing. I also, like, I don't think it's just because of the quality of the writing, which I don't think is, like, I don't think it, I mean, it's just, it's pulpy, so it fits with, like, what Lovecraft is trying to do. But, I mean, I also don't think Lovecraft himself was actually a very good writer. It's one of those things where, like, a good example is Betrayal of the Mountains of Madness. The custom campaign has some of the best writing I've read in, like, the Arkham world, but it's still one of those things where it's just too much, you know? This goes back to what I was saying in the Scarlet Keys, where I feel as though when you have to read all of this before you can play, it just fucking keeps going. Holy shit. I forgot how long the intro for this one is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 pages. It doesn't really read to me as respecting the time on the play of the box for the playtime for the game. And I understand that not everyone is as particular on this as me, but I do think that board games, if they say there's that time on the box, that should include everything. Because people have limited time to play, and reading together, I recently played ARKHAM with a new player. We played Night of the Zealot, and I read the opening, right? And, like, same with Eric. I'm so, like, I feel like this will turn off people from playing, you know? And, like, that's kind of, like, I just feel like it's going to be more limiting to the growth of Arkham than it is going to be good, right? Because I understand that Arkham started as, like, its theory is Call of Cthulhu in a game, right? Call of Cthulhu, but a board game, is kind of like what Arkham always has started as. But it's one of those things that, like, over time, it's kind of like, it's kind of taking, it's like, it's now, it's like your DM has, like, suddenly realized, hey, I can write great description, and just, like, talked forever about it. You know, they're just like, you walk into a room and there is this faucet and it's leaking, drip, 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 and there's a door, and behind the door there's a green light, and then you hear a tooting and a piping, and then just keep going for that, and you're like, okay, but I wanna go to the door. Let me go fucking open the door. I wanna see it for myself. You know, I just feel like, let the players play. Right? I think, like, that's kind of like where I come in, you know? Let the players, like, play. And just let them get started. Let them discover stories through the gameplay. Right? I don't know. Because I do think it's, like, it's one of those things where, I like this, you know? Like, this is perfect. Like, just give me, like stuff like that. Ice and Death Part 2. Look at this! This is, like, the most flavorful scenario, and this is all we got. And then we got these things, which I think this is perfect, right? Like, this oneer. I think this is great, you know? But, like, I think even, like, going against the grain of Guerreric's theory that if the writing was better, people would be happier. I don't necessarily agree. I think as a whole, people want to, because people want to play. They want to play Arkham. Like they bought this game to play the game, you know? It's like, it's my problem with also Earthborn Rangers, where there's no spoilers for Earthborn Rangers here, but whenever a card comes into play and it's like, find this sample in the book, I go look at it, see if it's just flavor, and then I just close the book. Because I'm here to play a game, you know? And I do think that most people, there's basically just better ways to get the reading part of it, right? But like, there's the gameplay of Arkham is like top shelf, you know? So like I want to do the good shit because I can just read a short story somewhere else in my time, right? I think that's what it kind of comes down to for me. I want to play the game, and I want the game to tell me a story because your game is really good at telling me a story. I don't want you to tell me a story for me to play your game. Like, that's what it kind of comes down to. And like these other ones before didn't really hit that mark as much. Like they actually have more like, hey, here's the brief synopsis, go play. Because I said this while I was recording the gameplay. When you just read the act and agenda, it's like good. It's good. The writing's great. It sets the scene. It tells you everything you need to know. It's fantastic. But then there's all this as well, which I don't think, like, I understand people like it, you know? Like, I understand people do like it. I will also say, you must also understand that you are in the minority, right? Like that, it's not the common opinion. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, like, it doesn't do anything. I mean, realistically, it doesn't do anything from any side to be like, hey, I like this, I hate this. This is just like, us doing criticism and like all that kind of thing. But I don't even know what I was saying. But basically, like, it doesn't work for me. And it's a shame because I think it paints Edge of the Earth in a worse light than actually it is. You know? Because like it's kind of, to me, it's setting up this world where like people think of Edge of the Earth and they're like, there's so much reading, there's so much drama with the partners that you have to get through, with kind of like stories that aren't really worth the time. And I agree. I do think that the stories for the partners it's a little bit too, what's the word I'm trying to think of it? It's just a little bit too much. It's a little too melodramatic, you know? It's a little bit too, like, melodramatic, you know? Because it's just kind of like, I don't know. It just, let me care about them. We don't need to build a story about them weaving through each other's lives, right? Like, I understand, like, that's the flavor of it, but I don't think it works in this medium. If this was a movie, fuck yeah, right? If this was a book, fuck yeah. But this is a game. Let my interactions just be the things that, like, I don't even know. I don't even know how to put it, you know? This kind of reminds me of people who like playing Dungeons and Dragons for the combat versus playing DVD for the D&D for the role-playing and storytelling. I can agree with that in theory, but this is a board game. And I think that, like, they've a little bit has lost track of that. And I don't think it, like, I guess, like, I'm good that I recorded the Scarlet Keys before. I don't think it affected Heart of Madness, but I think it affected Scarlet Keys, right? I think that's, like, this is what we're seeing, the through line of this. The writing was really high in Edge of the Earth, which means that it became one of those things where this is now how the story is told, and we lost that completely in, like, the story now in the scenarios are so a lot, like, they're just a lot more plain, and like the open world was a great swing, but I think unfortunately overall it missed, right? Yeah. There was something that said, I mean, I'm optimistic for Hemlock Vale, mostly because it's Magic the Gathering like changes their lead designers for each set. Like there's one like head of design, Mark Rosewater, but like they change their lead designer from set to set. Because like the reality is people need time to not think about something, right? And I think that that would be beneficial, and I think that it is MTG is a crap ton of more content per year as well, though. I mean, yes, but you're fucking losing the forest for the trees, my brother. that doesn't matter. You're like, you're trying to gotcha me in this thing where I'm saying that I think that ARKHAM would be better if there was rotating, like someone who was rotating from set to set, who was overseeing everything. Even if they do it a year out, like if they do one set a year, right? People get tired, and creativity is finite. People will run out of ideas, and they need time to not think about those ideas. And if there was someone else who was able to be the head designer, who was like, okay, this is my campaign, I'm going to take lead on all the designs, that means that like MJ would have to like, from like freaking Zealot to Scarlet Keys, this was like one person's job. One person's job as head designer. That is so fucking difficult, you know? That is impossible. And like, I'm not surprised that MJ didn't leave sooner. Especially because also ARKHAM fans kind of fucking suck, you know? And that's also why people like, yeah, exactly, what Beard is saying in chat. Why people like homebrew stuff, because you have a new person who is spearheading the design, right? And when people say, man, homebrew stuff's so good, it's because it's not one person who's been working on this game for 8 years, you know? And I do think that I'm optimistic because of that, because we're seeing a new person come in and bring ideas into ARKHAM as the head designer. So yes, while Magic releases 4 to 5 to 6 sets a year, I think that there's a reason why Magic is so successful is because there is a design team and a rotating lead designer. And I think that ARKHAM could potentially really benefit from that as well. Because I do think that there's a reason why, like when like the people doom and glooming when MJ left, right, to go work on the new unannounced product at FFG, were like, that's the end of ARKHAM. And I'm like, honestly, I'm so happy for MJ, because it's gotta be a fucking nightmare to be working on this for that long, and like having your like still needing to like see things from a new angle, right? And like go with that on your own. Like you have a design team to help you, but also like to play in one playground for such a long time. I've kind of lost the track here, but I think that this is all kind of like coming in this as well, because this is obviously also where we see the writing. It's one of those things where this is obviously a passion, right? Of because like MJ's a published author, right? And I think that this whole new format was ultimately probably really exciting for them as a designer, because they, as I said earlier at the start, this is when we got into the coiled campaign guide. So we had an entirely new design space environment to explore in, which was completely new and refreshing and exciting. And I think that's why we're seeing the text at the length that it is. So like I understand why there's more. Why there's more, but it's just one of those things that I don't think it ultimately was best for the game, is where I'm coming from. So they don't pay one more person? I mean, I think that a lot of people speak with ignorance in regards to assuming to know what Fantasy Flight Games is doing. We know nothing about how their backside works, like on the back end. So I think even theory crafting about how like they never wanted to hire someone because like, you know, one person's doing fine. I think that we don't know, and we can't logically. It always annoys me when people are like, "Oh, Fantasy Flight Games, they're probably doing this because of that." Like, we don't know. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes of Fantasy Flight Games. So it speaks like from a little bit like just like be ignorant about it, right? Because we don't know what's happening back there. All right. My favorite part of the writing of Edge of the Earth is the interludes between scenarios. Like when you get like the time where everyone sits around the camp and you get to go talk to people one-on-one, and you get to get a benefit or alternatively get their reward card if the person was, you know, dead. Rest in peace. This is my favorite part. I don't read it. I don't read the text. I'm good on that because I don't like the text. But I love the interactions where you get to do the campfire scene. I think this was a huge success from a design, and it just like knocks it out of the park in terms of the people like mattering, so to speak, right? However, with all that said, I'm going to put a little asterisk on here, and we're going to talk a little bit about our good friend Dr. Amy Kensler. While I don't think the secret ending is particularly worth your time, I do think that locking the secret ending behind Dr. Kensler surviving when so much of the death of partners is completely random is kind of bad, right? I think we can all agree on that. Like if we compare this to the Forgotten Age, right? Where, as far as I'm aware, unless I'm missing something, the secret ending is completely open to you, and it's all based on how your decisions and gameplay, right? And having it be locked out of you because you just low rolled is kind of bad. It's kind of bad. I don't know how you get the secret ending in Scarlet Keys. I don't know that. So like that's something. That's something. So maybe it has the same, but I mean, probably not. It's probably just the order in which you go to locations or some shit like that. I don't know. I haven't unlocked it. But again, while I don't think the secret ending for Edge of the Earth is worth it, it shouldn't be locked out of it. Secret ending is just fluff though in this, right? No extra act boss, no extra nothing. No, it's just the secret ending. But the human brain is fucked. The human brain sees that, and they're like, I still want it, you know? Even though it doesn't matter. Like, even if what behind the door, like if you open a door and all there is behind it is like a framed painting of a cottage, and you're like, I want to see the frame painting of the cottage. If it's just randomly locked, you're going to be like, why the fuck is this door locked? It doesn't matter what it is. People want to be able to have control to get it, you know? Cancel dodges playing class, everything after is doable by choice? What if she dies randomly? What if she dies randomly, you know? She can still just die randomly. She can die when the thing bursts in Forbidden Peaks, can't she? Resolute her? So you need, like, everyone else to die. Oh, helicopter, you're fucked on this. I'm sorry. You're absolutely wrong. I'm sorry, man. I'm not even going to argue this in good faith because you're coming from a place of pure ridiculousness. That's a nightmare, man. Yeah, no, that is not a good faith argument. That is a gotcha argument right there. if I've ever heard it. Holy cow. Okay. Yeah, so back on this. Yeah, so unless you have other people purposely die before this, you just have to camp at a low shelter location, hope she doesn't get lost in Ice and Death Part 2. You have to go save her. Everyone else dies. You can resolute her right after that. There's a lot of not control in terms of how you are able to get Kensler to the end. And I think that is gonna rub people the wrong way, and I think it's very fair because, once again, humans are fucking weird. Humans are strange in the sense that they want to have access to this, and like if it was a gameplay thing, like for example Ishtaka, right? To get to Ishtaka's ending, you to get Ishtaka fully on your side, you need to get three things in Boundary Beyond, which is actually like not a for sure guaranteed thing, but it's related directly to your gameplay. If all the decisions with Dr. Kensler was like a challenge you needed to hit in the scenarios, I think people would think of it a bit more fondly. Once again, also with this addition that if like the writing was good. So while again, I don't think that this is worth going for. I don't think that this is worth going for, this kind of stuff. I do think that it's a shame that you can just randomly be locked out of it. It's not like best for the human brain and how players want to do it. Because I've done it once, and I'm never gonna bother with Kensler. And again, it makes other partners feel less important by implication. I agree with that in theory. I don't agree with it in practice, but I do agree with like the theory of it, right? And it's a bit funny because like I agree, but to me the other partners are more important, mostly because the story of the secret ending sucks. But in theory, yes, when you're following Kensler's plan, you're kind of just like, I hope to God anyone else dies. So yeah, I agree. I disagree for myself personally, but I agree in like the broad strokes perspective. I can imagine starting 2025, Eric's doing the blind run at Edge of the Earth. I mean, realistically, probably yeah, right? Yeah, it's gonna be a while until Eric and I get to Edge of the Earth, isn't it? Because we're in Forgotten Age. And at the time of this episode, we are over halfway done recording Forgotten Age. We haven't started Circle. And Edge of the Earth, Forgotten Age is going to at least the end of February. It's going to be a long time till Eric and I get to Edge of the Earth. Eric did say that they were excited for more reading. But, I mean, Eric's a reader. So I don't know, I'm curious. I told Eric that a big problem is also that the qualities, like, people don't really enjoy the quality of it because it's, as I trust Beard's perspective on that quite a bit. Where it's the same thing over and over and over. Circle, March, April. No, because if each campaign that Eric and I have recorded has been separated by another campaign of my own, because Eric's schedule, we can't record every week, right? So it's going to be a while until Eric and I get to Edge of the Earth is all I'm saying. It's going to be a good chunk of time. Okay. I think that's all. Is there any other general topics to chat about for the campaign? It's wild, but don't lose Eric. No, Eric's one of my oldest friends. There's only there's two people in my life that I've known that long that I'm still friends with, and it's Mitch and Eric. So they're not going anywhere. Unless, of course, one of us gets crushed by a falling piano. In which case, that is done. Okay, is there any... I think that's it for just generic. Did you talk about the multipod scenario structure? No, I feel like we can talk about... Oh, there is an achievement list here. Good. Yeah, I think we can go... I think we can start talking about campaigns. Okay. Sorry, I mean scenarios. Let's go and talk about Ice and Death. I love... I love the designer headache that they absolutely were not expecting with checkpoints. You know? I love it so much, it makes me laugh. Because I just imagine them being like, oh, no. Because, if you don't know, this came after, like, if Edge of the Earth was your first campaign, because Innsmouth hasn't been re-released yet in the new box format, so a lot of new players are staying away from it. So if for some reason you did not heed my warning and you're watching this video with that, in Edge of the Earth there was times when you didn't get to spend your experience, right? Sorry, in Innsmouth there was times where you didn't get to spend your experience, and it was a design choice that I think has some positives and some negatives. But it was one of those things where you get to checkpoints and a lot of people are asking, do I get to spend experience at my checkpoint? And I just know the designer, like, yes, you can, but the designers are probably just like, oh, frick. If it happened in the other order, it would not have been a problem. It's just one of those funny things. Once again, going to like the human mind and how it works. The issues that come with it, I think, was just really kind of just a funny sort of way for it to play out. Because I understand the questions. I do. But yeah, using the app certainly makes it easier. However, we'll always do our blind runs on paper because it is a bit more fun. And then in the future, we'll use the app. But the blind run in the book is something you'll never take out of my grubby, dirty hands, because I love seeing Travis actually write in there like it's like old school time. The app is great for killing folks randomly as well. No, you can't. You have to put the blood on your hands. You have to put the blood on your hands. When you kill someone, you can't do the app, because that's cowardly. That's a cowardly approach. You have to kill them yourself. You have to shuffle the deck, and you need to choose one yourself. If you're not killing by your hand, I do not want you in my life. You have to take responsibility. It is you who are killing them. You need to do it. You need to kill Dr. Amy Kensler. To make things worse for Heart of the Elders, part 1 and 2 also don't. Yeah, that also makes it more difficult as well. Same sort of thing. I do wish they just called it different things. Right, and you just use the same map. Can I roll a d10? That's the middle ground, but no. That's closer, but you still are abdicating your responsibility of being a murderer. For new players, I just recommend going in release order. Yeah, that's our also general thing, but we also say, like, I mean, a big part is we also say if you want to play Arkham, play what's available to you, right? Like, if we want to not... Because I do think... I'm not the one killing them, Antarctica is. No, you're a board game. You're doing the shuffling and you're killing them. The blood is on your hands. You have to do it. But I do think that, if we can talk about this, I think Edge of the Earth is a good recommendation for new players as well. Because... saying release order, I think, is a good recommendation, but I think it puts new players into a box that they shouldn't be in sometimes, you know, where they think, oh, I can't play this campaign before this one because everyone says I have to go in release order. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's the easiest blanket recommendation, but for example, I would say Dunwich, Innsmouth, Edge of the Earth are all good campaigns to start with, right? And then like Path to Carcosa, I'm like, you should probably want to, you also just like don't want to play like Path to Carcosa first, and like Forgotten Age and Circle Undone are hard, Dream Eater's hard on the thing, right? So like, It's one of those things that, like, I think it's an easy blanket recommendation, but I do think it also has a negative part of it for new players. But once again, like, I also talk a lot about this from, like, a board game perspective, because there's a lot of board games that, like, do really well because they're simple. And I do think that ARKHAM has a lot of things that are keeping it from being able to grow. And I think even, I think honestly, the community doing, like, you have, like, play it in this order as a recommendation is one of those things that make it a little bit trickier, because it paints this picture that it might be a right or wrong way. So yeah, I agree, but I'm putting up the asterisks. You can start with Edge of the Earth. You can start with Edge of the Earth or Innsmouth, and I think you'd still have a great time. Probably not Innsmouth because it's not available in a good format right now. But Edge of the Earth or Dunwich, you're going to have a good time, I think. That's what I think. Alright, we got sidetracked. Alright, Dice and Death Part 1. So, I only have one criticism of this scenario. And it's honestly a pretty simple one. And it's actually kind of a criticism I have just generally with the new box format. Is location diversity. Right? If the locations had randomized versions, or the shelter values could change depending, I think this scenario would be a banger. Right now, the scenario is a great blind run, but kind of just an okay rerun, right? I don't think that's like a... I don't think that's a controversial opinion. I think that this scenario is really cool. I think it's really good, but it hurts on replayability. If once again we look at Carcosa, and the reason why for me Carcosa is so good is just the small pieces of replayability that can be presented with minute changes in the game or setup. And the fact that this doesn't have any of that is kind of a bother. You know? We should get location variations and return to, if only. If only, huh? Yeah, no, that's like, that's the downside. That's like, to me, the problem with Edge of the Earth. I also like, this is just a personal pet peeve. The, having to build the map as you reveal. I think it's really cool. I think it's, like, really cool, but at the same time, it's also a little bit annoying. Oh, we can also talk about map sizes. We should also talk about map sizes, huh? Because it's pretty well known, it's a pretty common thing to know that the map sizes in, Edge of the Earth are huge, right? And honestly, I'm for it. I'm for it. I feel like, once again, going back to Magic the Gathering, there's a reason why it's an example in a lot of discussions about board gaming, is because it is such a... There's a reason why it's been in print and for like 30 plus years. I think it's 30 years this year or like next year. It's like 30 years. It might be, yeah. But, and that's because they changed the mechanical identity from campaign to campaign, right? And I remember when Edge of the Earth was coming out, people were like, this is the new norm, giant maps. And then we get to Scarlet Keys, and the maps, surprise, are tiny. I don't think the maps in Innsmouth are that big. There's some big ones. There's 2 that are big, right? I mean, I guess there's 3. The final one's big. Maybe I'm wrong. Because the first one is Pallid Mask type big. But maybe I'm strange, because I don't think fixed maps are that big. Eleanor Harper, small map. It can get big, but it's pretty tight. Devil Reef, I mean, Into Deep's obviously big. It's a gigantic map. But it's like one of the best scenarios in the game, so it doesn't, like... The Devil Reef gets big near the end. You know, maybe I am wrong. Car 1 is a small map, but like that's a gimmick. Dagon is a small map. And then the finale gets to a bit. You know, maybe I am wrong. So maybe that's why people thought it was the norm, you know? But as we get to Scarlet Keys, the maps are tiny again. Yeah, Lighthouse is pretty big. But I mean, Lighthouse is no bigger than, it's about on par with, like once you get to the end, it's about on par with, Echoes of the Past, right? I don't view that. I mean, like, to me, City of the Elder Things, like, and fucking Heart of Madness, those ones are huge. I think this one's big. But I guess the point is, I can see now why, pausing on this, the trend of them being like, is this the new normal? But Scarlet Keys maps were tiny. Those were tiny-ass maps. So I think now, then, it shows that, hey, there is design space to explore in map size. Who would have thunk, you know? Square maps feel smaller than weirder shaped maps. 100%. 100%. Once again, the human mind is fucked, isn't it? Hypothetically, which would you enjoy more? Big maps with locations you only need to visit once, or smaller maps but you need to go back and forth quite a bit between the locations? I like smaller maps that you have to go back and forth. It feels more like an investigation, you know? It feels more like an investigation. But, like, each of those paint a different picture. Because, like, I understand a big map like this represents exploration, right? Like, that's kind of like what this whole map is trying to do to the players. It's like giving you the feeling of exploration, while a smaller map is giving the feeling of investigation, right? But yeah, I'm all for big maps, but I'm also for small maps. Big maps make it harder from a unique perspective on my end, where it's about recording it. Like, that's the hard part, because, like, if I was playing personally and I was just, like, on my table, I don't really care, you know? Like, if I was just playing this game casually, you know? But because I'm recording it, the big maps are, if I had to choose, big maps make it harder to record and, like, make it legible. So that would be the thing. But, yeah. I'm okay with the map sizes overall. They're definitely hard on a blind run on my perspective of recording. But my only problem, as I said earlier with Ice and Death Part 1, is that the shelter values are not fixed. I love the supplies. Having to get stuff for your recovering supplies and then carry them up the mountain. I think that's a home run. Does a great job of also making you want to go for the good ones. You know, like the Frigid Cave, the Green Soapstone, the Miasmic Crystal. I think there's a lot of cool stuff. Oh, shit. Interesting. I think there's a lot of cool ways to, I think it does, like, there's a lot of good stuff. The scenario would just be, like, aces. Aces for, if it was randomized. I don't think that's silly at all. Table space can be a problem for people who have small tables. I don't think that's silly at all. I think that is a fair criticism, and something I wish more board games took into account. I think ARKHAM is guilty of it in sometimes, but I think board gaming as a whole, some games have lost the respect for table space. I think ARKHAM is less guilty of it, in, like, the broader sense, right? I think that overall it's pretty good on table space, but it also has fallen prey into not respecting table space, and I think that's kind of a problem with just, like, board games as a whole. The creatures. These guys show up. We get the reoccurring boss that appears in a bunch of scenarios. It's my own personal pet peeve against these things. I don't like reoccurring bosses that much. It's just like my own personal thing, but like that is not an actual like criticism of the design of this guy. I think the Terror of the Stars is fine. I love the video of me trying to do math against this guy. Doomkeeper, thank you for the follow. I love that video of me trying to do math against this motherfucker. I just don't like the flavor of a reoccurring enemy. I don't know. It just never resonates with me, but that's on me, you know? Yeah, I mean, this guy only shows up can show up like 3 times, I think. That's still too many for me. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, like, once again, like, yeah. I understand the reoccurring bosses thing is my own personal perspective. But I'm happy it exists for people who do like him. It's just not for me. I'm not a big fan of it. I think these enemies are cool. I think they're scary. I think the enemy design is pretty terrifying. These enemies, like, this one's a tough one. These are tough enemies for scenario 1. And, like, their text boxes are pretty insane, too. Yeah, nothing to say about the Ice Milk. I think they're terrifying. I think they're moderately terrifying enemies for scenario 1. And I like the design on them. I like that they're just goo. Because, I mean, like, what else more can we get in the finale? Like, if we go back to Heart of Madness for a second, I think goo would be less critiqued as the finale if we also didn't have Scarlet Keys kind of just be the same sort of thing. That's why I'm very excited for Hemlock Vale, because I think we're just going to get some good... Like, yes, the color out of space, if it is the color out of space, is going to be goo at the end, but I think like everything leading up to that is going to be like more warped, fucked up nature. If it is color out of space, this is all just, once again, just predictions that may or may not be true. My phone is going nuts. Just make sure it's just sent me a million texts. But yeah, I think that's it for this one. Yeah, it's a case of variety, right? Because, like, in Ice and Death Part 1, I mean, in Edge of the Earth as a whole, like, when you only fight penguins and goo. You only fight penguins and goo, right? And then in the frickin' Scarlet Keys, you're fighting cultists, which is, like, totally good. But then a lot of it is just, like, swirls, and you're like, it's air! Help me! I'm getting attacked by a wind tunnel, you know? And then you get, if you don't get the secret ending, you fight Static Monster, which was like, I understand that this is not actually the Red Glove Man, but I was the most disappointed I've ever been when I saw that the Red Glove Man was just a giant static monster. I was like, oh fuck. This character that I have fallen in love with from Arkham's history is just this. It's not even a good ancient one. Like, Udmordoth, I think, is a really good custom-made Arkham Files ancient one, right? Can you imagine the heartbreak when Eric gets when they see that twist? Eric, I've already told Eric, because Eric was like, ooh, the Red Glove Man? What did you learn about him? And I was like, Eric, Bad news. Static monster. Not great. But if I know this, I will tell Eric. I did tell Eric as well that there's a secret ending that's like the actual Red Glove Man. I just haven't seen it yet. Which honestly does make me happy. It does make me happier to know that there is something I have yet to discover about the story of that one. And yeah, Beard, you're right. I did forget about these enemies as well, which I think are fantastically designed enemies. Maybe not for the goon. Maybe not for the goon. So you're slightly spoiled on what happens in the secret ending. I just know that all I know for the secret ending is that the Red Glove Man that you see in the story is not the Red Glove Man that we all know and love. It's something like, that's kind of like vaguely what I have been spoiled about. Just that the Red Glove Man you see in the normal ending, in like the bad ending, is not the one you know and love. Okay, so let's talk about these guys just briefly before we get to Ice and Death, because I actually want to talk about something and why I like the designs of these characters. This goes back to what we were talking about with the Spires of Carcosa, where the idea is that the game as a whole is better when you are not building your deck around one stat. And you actually need to like scrap together resources to pass things. And I think that design like that should still be given to the players. Going to the Scarlet Keys reviews, where a big criticism is that the Shroud, while it is easy to interact with things in the shadows, it kind of rewards you to get there, right? Like it kind of like you have to be like hyper focused on like your brain if you're a mystic to get like, and also have to use the charges, your fist if you're a fighter, your foot if you evade, and your book if you're a clover, right? And it's one of those things that I think the game is better if everyone's like Roland Banks. Right? Like, and this is why I think that like why I've been having so much fun with Bryn and Travis in our draft decks, because we've been building decks that are a bit more flexy, and the game becomes more fun when you have to like weigh your resources against the game's tests. And this guy to me kind of screams that, right? Because as your goon, like this is a great card for mystics and seekers, like mystics and cloovers, right? But then it asks the question, I have to take an action off to deal with this guy. How are you, my fighter, going to make up for the clue that I've lost, right? And luckily, all of our partners can kind of help facilitate this, right? So like as the goon, you could take Chancellor to flex a little bit. So now the question becomes, the question is once again still just like, how do you make up for the action I've spent? The fighter can be like, I want to flex a little bit and get a clue. So I think enemies like this are actually kind of exciting for the game, and I want to see more of it. This guy's a nightmare. This guy, I don't know why. He's just my fucking kryptonite, bro. This guy, I'm fucking Finn Edwards, and I just can't. I have fucking Jacqueline on my team, but I just cannot get the Doom off this guy. I think the design is once again really nice. And I love the juxtaposition of the two. It's a cool. This is a great set, and again, this is a great scenario. I love the vibe of this scenario, where I like the vibe of the whole campaign, you know? I like the vibe of the whole campaign. And this is just like, to me, like the peak of it. Of like the depressing, hopeless, the despair, the oh shit, we are in trouble. Like, you get someone who dies in the plane crash, which I personally do like. My problem with the plane crash goes back to Kensler, how it can potentially lock you out of some story, so to speak. But I like that it changes where you have your stress point in terms of where your weaknesses and your partners can potentially come from, which I think is really nice. But then I like that carries over that dread into this second scenario, where if you don't camp here, I think that's the only 8. Everything else is like a 7 or a 5, right? Maybe there's a 6 up here. Yeah. You're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go and rescue someone because they wander off in the middle of the night. And the story cards as well. I mean, I love it. I love this scenario. I like Ice and Death Part 2. I loved it the first time I played it. I love every time I play it. It's just a really good, flavorful story, you know? Yeah, it's exactly that, right? This one feels like a scary scenario, you know? It just feels like it's actually something horrifying that's happening, right? A lot of the other scenarios, you're like, they're good, right? It's like, goo is attacking us, climb the mountain, explore the city. There's a lot of aspects of it that are like classic pulpy horror, but this one is like, oh shit. Oh shit, this is actually like kind of just like pure dread. This is just like dread horror. And that's why I personally like really like it. Because my favorite type of horror is dread. You know, like I just love the feeling of just like, oh shit, this is just hopeless. And this is the vibe that this scenario gives me. I love it as much as I did on the first play, and I think I'll always just love it just because the whole vibe of it is like 10 out of 10. So, Ice and Death Part 1. I think it's a good scenario, let down on replays. Ice and Death Part 2, great scenario that I don't think is hindered on replays at all, you know? Because it's where the guy spawns is randomized, where which one is possessed, like all the possessed ones are randomized. So there's like a lot of small knobs that give you like that replayability that can make this one super interesting. I especially love it too where like the possessed enemy was just on camp and you're like, what are you doing here? Come on. I will say that I do think that not all of these are made equal. I do think that not all of the possessed enemies are made equal. If I remember correctly, who was it? You are like super simple. Yeah. Yeah. Like, Dr. Mala, Brain 2 test. For each point you succeed by, place 1 resource on her. If you fail, she attacks you. Look at Dr. Ava Claypool. Test a brain or book 5 to get this man to stop blabbing nonsense. You need to succeed player times. So you could feasibly do this actually in 1. And then this one, you can like, it goes nuts. So I think that's kind of, man, even just like how this guy attacks for. Yeah, it's wild. So I think that would be my thing, is that I do feel like not all of these, so this is the other one, yeah. Like maybe they made the ones that they knew were like just generally stronger, harder to deal with. But I mean, but that's once again, that's just me kind of like, that's me kind of nitpicking a little bit, right? That's not an actual, I don't think it detracts from it. It's just like, you know, the scenario is good when I gotta get into that kind of territory. Okay, let's move on. Great scenarios, though. Great scenarios. Get out of here. All right, then we go to Ice and Death Part 3 with the exploding, seeping nightmare. with the ice milk that's just going absolutely nuts. So another aspect of my own personal preferences is I've played a lot of custom scenarios and other scenarios where the idea is that you are trying to survive an onslaught from an enemy. And to be honest, I've never actually liked any of them. They're just like, they don't vibe with me as a player. Again, like the reoccurring bosses, this is completely just like my own opinion and doesn't necessarily mean that I think they should stop. They have never worked for me. There's just like, it's just not it. And I think that this one is no exception. For me personally, it's kind of still just the same sort of thing where I'm like, oh no. Even when the stranger chases you around Paris, that is not the same as onslaught of enemies, right? That's just like, that's an avoidance mission. The onslaught of enemies is you actually have to actively fight them, you know? I like that it gives the fighter a chance to shine after 2 scenarios. I mean, yeah, I think like in theory, it's definitely like fun for the fighter to have something to do. And then like the clover is just going to go around and like grab everything that like basically just finish all the side quests that haven't been fixed yet. Like in theory, once again, but this is all like my own personal sort of thing. Survive the onslaught of enemies just doesn't resonate with me. I've never been like, yes, that was really fun and I had a great time doing it, you know? So this one's kind of just like mid to me. It's not a bad scenario. I like playing on the map, but again, if there was just like a different version of some of these locations that maybe had like, could you imagine where it was like treacherous path, good weather, treacherous path, bad weather, and like it just also changed between scenarios? So like you revealed you grabbed a random one each time. Just these small things to make the map feel a little bit more alive, right? Because I think like while I don't have a problem playing on this map 3 times because it is so big, and like your objective can still grow with it. You can be like, okay, with this scenario, I want to reveal this location. I do think that the game hurts a little bit due to the fact that there's no variety in it. So that's why people say, I'm bored playing on the same map multiple times. If there was just like a hint of something to make it a little bit different each time, I understand why there isn't, because they want you to be able to get supplies 3 times. It's not particularly fun. However, it's not particularly fun if the map can change and you can lose that, right? However, with all that said, I do like that the setup changes. I think mechanically this one is really nice. It's probably mechanically the best enemy onslaught scenario that I've played. I love that they can go on different locations as it goes for the setup. I love that you can kill the Seeping Nightmare before all of the pieces come off. I think that's really cool. But I also don't like this. The camp gains investigators at locations spend 4 clues as a group to resign. Because it means that you need to spend 4 clues per player to resign. And it's just a bit funky to me. Like, I understand the alternative is just attack, right? Like, just kill them all. right? It's actually pretty easy with a good build and a good deck to get there and just do it, right? But I'm still going to criticize this, because if things do go wrong, it's the most unique form of resigning that I don't think was ultimately worth it. It's not... I just think it's a little bit strange. It's just a little bit funky, especially because like Ice and Death Part 1 has it, where you resign as a group. And this, it's just funky. It's just funky. But it's true. Just kill them, right? Like that's just don't resign. Just kill them all. But if you have to, I'll let your Clover resign last. Otherwise, lest you get fucked. Lest you just get absolutely destroyed by it. Yeah, but I think this one's pretty mid. I don't think it's great. I think the first two Ice and Deaths are a lot better than it. Like, a lot better. Like, a lot. Okay. We'll stop. We'll take a little... Oh, shit. 1 second. Call that Fatal Mirage. Fatal Mirage. Whoa. Whoa. How fun is this, chat? Okay, I'm just getting this out here because we kind of need to, like... You ever see the whole map of Mirage before? I'm going to lay it out in a way that's not supposed to be laid out that way just for fun, because the numbers... Yeah, doesn't it, like, make something similar to Ice and Death when it's all laid out? Dude, it's huge! It just keeps going. All right, you guys can all make sense of this at home, right? Easy, right? Everyone's got this? You can all make sense of where you go and who you are and all that, right? No problem? Okay, good. All right. Fatal Mirage. Yeah, it's kind of plain, isn't it? It's kind of just, like, not great. I understand, like, the flavor behind it, and it's cool to make people resolute. You can usually do 2 in 1. Location connectors. One-way location connectors are so uncommon, I wish the game called them out when they happen. I can get that. I can get behind that. You know me, I'm down for anything that makes it easier for the players to see things at a glance, but I'm 100% for it. Okay. Yeah, this scenario is kind of just like... I think the problem is that it's just so... Because it's manufactured in such a way that you can have 9 potential outcomes, right? So what ultimately ends up happening is that it is... it's so rigid, right? There's not a lot of flexibility. It's like so linear in this campaign. It also doesn't feel particularly exciting on replays. It doesn't feel that particularly exciting on replays too, because you kind of are just like, you know what's going to be after everyone. The most exciting Mirage is the first one. And then you're like, okay, well, it's not what I was hoping. Who's stuck in the hedge mage? There they are. Hey, that's the art from Eldritch Horror. My biggest gripe is that partners can die in this scenario. That's a good point. Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, it's a little bit... Like, I'll play it each time because I like playing ARKHAM, and this is kind of just, like, the most basic ARKHAM that you can get. But, like, the whole thing is just... It's very... It's just a bit too rigid, right? It was designed in such a way that you could hit... it's I don't know. It's just rigid, right? Not many enemies kill for the goon again. Good. I'm gonna go back to my original point. I think that the game is better when you're flexing a little bit. So goon can be grabbing clues. Goon should be grabbing clues. I mean, there's a lot of one shroud locations to make up for that as well. But I think that it's better. The game is better when it's like this. I think the game's better when like the goon has to like do things and the clover can suddenly be like, hey, I can solve my own problem, goon. You just keep doing your flexy shit. The game is better for it when that's happening. Specialization is boring as sin, but it's so damn good that you have to do it. This isn't real map. Oh no, this is real. this is how it is. This is our good friend Fatal Mirage. Yeah. It's I have great fear now. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're not gonna see it like this. You're not gonna see it like this. Don't worry. I mean, yeah, because I've only actually played this one, I think, once. Maybe we played it twice in one of our campaigns. But we're usually not in a position where you need to do it twice. I think I kind of like it as... Because I played it... Spoilers for the Gauntlet that is coming up. Not spoilers for, like, anything specific. But I played it here, right? Because I'm pretty sure you can play it, like, here, here, and here, right? Between each of these scenarios. Assuming Fatal Mirage isn't here. And it really depends on how good or bad you're doing. If you're doing good for partners, you get to do it here. But I think it just... I liked the pacing of it right here. It was like the last episode of everyone getting together and bonding before we go to the final occurrence. And I mean, I like the theory of it being one of those things where it's like a reoccurring nightmare sort of thing. But I don't know if mechanically it really fits that well. But I don't hate the scenario, but I just don't like it. Because it's kind of just like... It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's kind of mid as well. If I had to choose between Ice and Death 3 and Fatal Mirage, I'd play Fatal Mirage just because it's more my Arkham experience. But that's like it. I think that Ice and Death Part 3 is probably a more enjoyable scenario, but it's just not for me, so that's why it would edge out over the two. Alright, let's delete this. I do like fighting the inner turmoils. Like, the flavor of it's really cool. But I think mechanically it's just a little bit, It's just too linear for its own good. And it's not like, for example, like the scan deck or the backsides of the cards in Dim Carcosa. It's just a little bit too mechanical. You kind of just feel like you're playing a well-designed structure to get your allies sorted as opposed to, like, living a breathing nightmare. Alrighty then. To the Forbidden Peaks. Excuse me, I love this scenario. I think that this is probably the best scenario in Edge of the Earth. I think the scenario is really, really good. It's fucking great. It's stressful. It's simple. And it tells a good story with very little. Like, this is your fucking map. I especially like it. I think this is your map anyway. It's pretty close to this. Sorry, we have to get through all the reading. There it is. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, especially after you get through, like, Ice and Death, when you get to this tiny, compact map. And it's kind of crazy because This one makes movement feel so much more urgent than Ice and Death does with a smaller map, right? Because every step you take will punish you up, and if you can get knocked back down. It's really damn good. And then you add in the extra stress point, which is you got to carry your supplies up the mountain. Whoever thought this idea should be here was like a 10 out of 10 super genius, right? Rather than just giving them to you, you actually needing to carry your supplies up the mountain to finally earn them was beautiful. Because it tells such a story, right? Like, it tells such a story when it comes to it that it's freaking great, yo. It's freaking great. Like, and then you can drop them. You can get kicked down the mountain when the boss shows up. Right? Like, where is it? Avalanche? Just keep fucking going? You don't refill the uses. No. I love that mountain can kick you all the way down if you're a rogue, but don't worry, you got a lot of movement. But I like that, like, each location has... Like, they only punish you if you move below. Whoo! Yeah, it's so... Every step you take back, you know you're gonna have to lose so much progress and get to the top where there's victory waiting for you. The hard cultist is an auto move down. Ooh, that hurts. That fucking hurts. Wow. That's a hard fucking card there. Yeah, this is a great scenario. I love that you have to weigh when you carry things when you don't. I love when the boss shows up. He makes you drop shit. I love that you can also play around this as well. I think that's pretty sick. I love that this guy drags people down. I wish he dragged himself down. There's a little bit of a flavor dissonance for me personally there. But I wish he dragged also himself down. Like, he was just like, you're coming with me. I'm taking you down this motherfucking mountain. You know, I think that would be really cool. Yeah. I like the interlude. The person randomly dying is super sick, I think. I do like it. Again, my only problem with the random dying is that you can potentially lock other players out of the final story. And I also like that Cookie can deal 2 damage to the Terror of the Stars, right? That he can just, like, you know, which is really sick. I love it. He's just like, I'm not fucking done with you yet. And yes, this scenario has random locations that can really change the pace of the game. It's a winner. This scenario is a winning fucking scenario. It's a great scenario. It's not my personal favorite just because I like the flavor of Ice and Death 2 more. But Into the Forbidden Peaks, I think, is the best scenario in Edge of the Earth. Great scenario. Let's keep it moving. All right. City of the Elder Things. Group 1. Oh, shit. Fuck me, man. Alright, we're going to do it in this book. We're going to look at it like this. Get another session with the fam. Alright. Excuse me. I think City of the Elder Things is another really good scenario. Once again, due to the small pieces of variance, and that the way the map is randomized in terms of locations, which means that there is a lot of small things that can add up to making the scenario a lot more replayable. I have played this one the most. I have just played this one. And I did this one in a standalone, I think. I think I did this one in a standalone. What I like about it is the flavor that each of these give you, right? Where with this one, you're kind of spiraling around to get to the middle. This one, you're going to climb up, but you also could go back down and like scale this way. And with this way, you're climbing down into it, right? It's one of those things that I think is like really cool at like telling a story. To do that kind of thing with it. And yes, I can see definitely the point about the moving here. During your turn, spend a clue, look at the revealed side. It's during your turn, spend 3 clues to move. I wish the number was lower, because like if it was like 2 clues, I think then it would be a lot more viable for the fighter to get the clues. But again, I do think that ultimately this is a campaign that rewards you for flexing, right? And I think that this is an example of it. I think in the current state of Arkham, where specialization is like kind of a necessity a lot of the time, I do think that, because of the way the design moves, not because of like player choice, I don't think flexing is bad, but I think the designers are trying to tell you to specialize while also at the same time punishing you for specialization in weird ways. I think that if your fighter was like Roland Banks, this would be a lot better. If the number, I think, was 1 and 3. I think it's definitely a fair criticism, but when I played it through the gauntlet, slight spoilers, I'm flexing with both of my decks a little bit, and it works really well for that. I was able to trigger the ability multiple times with each investigator. But as just a pure goon, yeah, you're going to unfortunately be spending a lot of time moving around. Yeah. It's strange. It's really strange. Let's get a map. Let's build this one. The one that I've played the most. What the fuck are these? Oh, those are kind of cute, aren't they? Makes it harder to read, though, for sure, for sure. Those are kind of neat. I must say I kind of prefer the original, though. They're harder to read at a glance. They look kind of cute, though. I like the little cultist key. Hello. Little skull key is also fun because it's a head. The key placement, I think, is really fun and cool. That you can find the locations like this one. That care about the stuff that you do. I think like this stuff's really neat. I think that like that's... I like the kind of stuff that this one presents. I think it's a great scenario. Probably like very good. Maybe not great. I think it's a very good scenario. Close to great though. I think it's a great time. So like we have like 2 of the 3 are good here. This one's great. This one's like very good. So like, yeah, like overall, I think like the campaign's really good. I just have a lot of bad memories from it because of the reading and the final scenario. I don't really have anything to say about this scenario. I just played it on a different map and I had a good time with it. I like the key part a lot. I wish that keys were printed in the core set so we could do more stuff with it. But I think they did find a good workaround with using the extra tokens. I do think that is a good way that they have for making those tokens work. But I do think that, like, I mean, Doom had it right, you know? The original Doom, get the red key to open the red door, the blue key to open the blue door. I think that if there was just, like, 5 keys in the box, we're talking, you know? Because, like, even just imagine, like, just this new design space that the designers could have, where it was just, like, grab like if you bring the yellow key to the blue key's location, something happens, right? Like that's just something that they can just like now do in every scenario if they want. I wish, you know, if I could go back and change a few things, that would be one of them. All right. I don't have anything to say. Anything else to say? We're going to move on. Got a lot of shit to delete. All right. Heart of Madness. All hail the wheel. We all love the wheel. So, this map is probably my least favorite map to play on in terms of recording. Right? Because it's very hard to do on a table and a camera. The Captain America shield. Let's go! Yeah, you know what, man? That just changes my perspective. I think I like it a bit more now, to be honest. I think I'm, like, super for it. I play with actual cards, so I use an alternate layout with rows. Yeah, it's pretty good. Like, yeah, I think we do something similar. We make, like, a weird fucking starfish, and we're like, we love you, starfish. So I think where are my seals? There they are. Yes. Wow. Oh, that's right. They're state based. They're state based to get like this. Wow. So I like the Heart of Madness Part 1. I think it's just a nice, classic ARKHAM experience where you're moving around, getting clues, getting objectives, and kind of just setting up for the best future that you're able to set up for. I love that you can blow up the Earth. I love that everything can just blow up and it can all be your fault, Hank Sampson. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a good time. I've never seen it happen, but, you know, it might happen with me playing two-handed solo. I could certainly just, like, absolutely forget about it and just kill everyone I know and love. Yeah, they haven't told you, but it actually happens in real life as well when that triggers. Yeah, there's really, like... Fun fact, one seals is a sideways Among Us. Is it this one? Is that him there? That one. Has anyone ever skipped this scenario? I haven't, because mostly because I'll be honest. Why would I skip ARKHAM? Right? Like, I'm playing ARKHAM, you know? I'm playing ARKHAM. Why would I want to skip it? Like, even the people who are like, I resign on Undimensioned and Unseen, I'm like, why are you playing Dunwich? Like, if you don't like it, just don't play Dunwich, right? Like, still try. Try to do some of it. At least have some fun with it, you know? And if you don't like it that much, just, like, don't play Dunwich. So yeah, I would never... Oh yeah, I also would have skipped this one because it's like the good one of the two, you know? It's a good time. It's pretty simple. Just find the seals, which are like hidden here. Now that's if you control it. Oh shit. Look at that fucking randomization. Can I keep this for Tuesday? Chat, are you guys cool if I keep this for Tuesday? So yeah, you can grab it, you move up here, and then you can do the stuff. It's like really nice, simple simple interactions. That's just like the classic ARKHAM experience with it. Feels kind of weird that they made the tokens for seals when they're only using the scenario. I do agree with that to an extent. I think it makes it a bit more tactile and fun, you know, to have it like this. They probably have it within their budget to do like a small punch-out sheet. And they were just like, I want to do this, you know, without changing like the budget of the game too much. But it is a bit strange. It is strange. Like, I'm not gonna like. I can see why. The tactile nature of it is really fun. I like seeing it and flipping it and doing the thing. But it's weird. It is a little bit strange, you know? Yeah, I think it's a good scenario. I don't really have anything to say, because we can now talk about the last one. Heart of Madness, Part 2. Oh yeah, we have the other ones. Oh, do I have to delete everything if I recall this? Okay, good, good, good. Nice. Oh, that's pretty clever, using the ceiling tokens to like represent action tokens for player abilities. That's clever. Okay. We're here with the biggest pile of ice milk you've ever seen in your entire life. Alert. Massive. Retaliate. He cannot take damage. As you successfully evade or attack, you for each point you succeed by, exhaust the nearest ready copy of the Nameless Madness. Okay. So, I do think that one thing, up until, I mean, even Edge of the Earth, they have really good job at conceptualizing boss fights, right? Yog-Sothoth, guy who is just there staring at you. Actual battle with Hastur, depending on where you go. Yig. Azathoth is so big and he's going to punch you for looking at his coin. Dream Eaters, which has two of the best final boss fights in terms of like mechanical integration in the game. You're in the lair and they're actually actively like chasing you around. It's easy, but don't worry about it. And then this one is the goop that's everywhere, you know? The goop that is just all over the board, right? It's just a bit too messy for me. My problem is not that you have to evade him each turn. I'm okay that you need to like evade or fight the Nameless Madness each turn. I think that is like totally legit. But what I don't like is when he's like something like this and you're like, okay, I'm going to evade this one. I succeeded by how much? Okay, so that means I gotta exhaust you and you. I want to exhaust you, but I can't. I have to do this and then this. And like, then when the turn's over, you gotta write all those motherfuckers back up. And it is true that the majority of them don't matter. But sometimes a good chunk of them do matter. And you have to just like be keeping track as your as your map gets messier and messier as more of them show up. I also know that, like, what is it? There is, if all 15 are in play, I don't know. It's just, it becomes a little bit of, maybe it's supposed to be like this. It becomes a little bit of a tactile nightmare playing with this scenario, so I don't have a good time doing it. I don't even like it in Tabletop Simulator when it's really easy to, like, exhaust and ready the cards, you know? I only check mentally if the relevant ones are exhausted and don't bother tapping them. Oh my god. And even that, like, that's a good solution, but it's still just like it's still it's a good way to also like get it wrong. Like, not saying that you have gotten it wrong before, but like there's so much like headspace that has to go into like or keeping track, you know? Put a dice on them, but it's still like you still have to like go through and like do all of this stuff every turn. Every turn. It's like even putting a dice on them all, you're like, okay, you. I wanted like who's going here? We need to like put like I'm here, I'm gonna evade. Which one of these locations are you motherfuckers going to this turn? Because I can do like this one and this one and this one, and I can do one more. Are we gonna go here, here, right? Like there's a lot of just mechanical complexity that I think mechanical fiddliness that doesn't make for a good play experience, you know? Yeah, this reminds me of the slimes duplicated in Gloomhaven. Yes, that's another great example of just like mechanical fiddliness that, while flavorfully is really cool, is not great to play with. And I think that this is an example of that. How would you compare this to the pervasive enemies in Oz? I think that the pervasive enemies in Oz is easier from a tactile sense, but is a harder mental load of keeping track in some cases where the enemy is. I don't think it's like always difficult, but like when it changes or like when it's trait based, it becomes a little bit trickier. But it's definitely easier on the mechanical side. Like the tactile side of having to interact with things. If I had to choose to play with one, I would easily choose pervasive for that. But yeah, I like the idea. I don't mind it being an action tax for one player. It becomes super boring when like Travis did Lily with the Cyclopean hammer, and we were just like, yeah, Travis, swing the hammer, do the thing. I am looking forward to trying this with Finn to see how that is, because you don't really have the action tax, so you kind of have a little bit of a quote-unquote cheat code for it. But how would it sound if they didn't make attack of opportunities, but you couldn't multi-evade them? Maybe? I don't know. If you didn't make attacks of opportunities, I think without the attacks of opportunity, it would still be a little bit, it'd be fine, I guess. But I think it loses like a little bit of the flavor for that, you know? One thing I'd absolutely add is no attaching treacheries in this deck. It's been a while since I played this. Are there those? Wuck. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's not. Oh yeah, and you get the other stuff too. This one's gonna be tough for my Jacqueline and Finn deck for sure. All right, but then this has my least favorite thing that you can do in ARKHAM, which is a mid-scenario cleanup. And not only do you need to clean up, you need to grab 15 piles of goo. You need to grab 1,000,000 locations. And then you have to climb up the mountain. I'm probably not setting this up right. Oh my god. But you have to like make like the line of the ramp, right? And then you just put all these guys down here and you have to climb up the ramp. And this part is, pretty straightforward. Oh, you just need to keep the gate. Okay, perfect. But this part is quite straightforward in terms of what you have to do. But what I feel like it does is it kind of just nullifies the whole scenario up until this point. Also because if you do... I remember this frustrated the hell out of me. It made me so mad. If you do Kensler's thing... Where is it? Yeah, because if you run out... Yeah, so if you run out of time, you go up the ramp. And if you do it perfectly, you get it all, you have to run up the ramp. What? Excuse me? I remember that annoyed the hell out of me. We advanced the act and we still got to do this boring climb up the ramp bit that doesn't matter. That made me angry. I remember it actually, like, that was like some real salt that I came out with that one. And then, like, what is it for... How do you get, like, the ending with... Kensler? Oh, yeah, she changes into the entity. Which, like, I understand maybe is cool, but I don't think it is, you know? Yeah, the worst part is running up the ramp is super easy. It's like, yeah, it's like a victory rap. If you doom out, you do have a lot more massive enemies on you. I don't care. It's pretty much the same sort of feeling. I feel like if you do this, you should actually, like, seal the motherfucker, you know? At least it's a slight improvement over the descent. Mechanically, yes. Flavorfully, no, though, right? Because at this point now, you're like, I don't, like, it's over. There's, like, nothing else after this. It's like the climb up where you, like, win or, like, the whole scenario up into this point doesn't matter going into this final thing where you have to just do this one thing and you're like, okay, here's where I win or lose. This should just get you there. That's what I meant by the secret ending for Edge of the Earth being absolute fluff. I mean, I agreed with you. My point started where I don't see it's worth it, but humans want their, like, they don't want to randomly lose access to something that's out of their control. That's like, that was the point, right? That human beings don't like to just randomly lose access to something because they rolled the dice the wrong way. Because I also agree, the Kensler ending is not worth your time, but you must understand when you come in from the perspective of proper criticism, you need to acknowledge why it's bad that you can just lose access to something even if you don't think it's worth it. Especially when it, like, carries through 3 parts of the story to this ending. Yeah, I don't like this final scenario. Who knows? Maybe my tune will change on my most recent playthrough. But I just, like, I hate that the scenario doesn't matter until you do this climb of the mountain. This should just win you the game. This should just, like, win it for you. You should be able to skip the ramp. If you do this, this should just skip the ramp. 100%. So, for each miss, set 3 copies of it that's aside. Set all but 3 copies aside. It's like so... Move each location. Each investigator loses all their clues. I'm just comparing the difference. Put the 4 set aside. Remove the agenda. Remove the act deck from the agenda from the game. Ay caramba. I don't get it. I don't get it. This should just be like, congratulations, full victory, skip the stupid ramp part. You gotta walk up the ramp like this, with victory music playing, you know, like, and the credits are rolling over and you're like, we did it, we stopped it. Because it comes like one of those things. I think like in every other finale, you have this aspect of, as a player through the game, being able to find a victory, you know? But this one just doesn't. So like, it actually makes me not want to try for this, right? So it becomes more about like the Devourer Below problem, where you're just like, okay, so we do as much as we can, but it's all just about surviving the ramp, because that's what we have to do anyway. It's not about winning. It's about just setting yourself up for the best position for a finish that you cannot avoid no matter what you do. You have to do the dumb ramp. I don't like the ramp. I think that it's silly and not fun. I'm not a big fan of the ramp. I love the art for the ramp. I like to imagine what they used to push down this ramp. Like, was it a slide? But I don't like playing the ramp. So, going back, Ice and Death, I think two of them are very good to great. Well, good to great. One of them is mid. Fatal Mirage is kind of mid. Forbidden Peaks is fantastic. City of the Elder Things is very good. I think Heart of Madness Part 1 is very good, and Heart of Madness Part 2 is kind of mid. Yeah, what did those Shuggas push up and down that fucking ramp? I want to know. What was the ramp all about? Those damn Elder Things, they just love that ramp. And I like the ramp too. I want to know what they did on the big snowballs. Hell yeah. Yeah. What's the... Okay, so one second. It is too late. You cannot contain the creature that dwells beneath the mountains. All you can hope to do now is escape with your lives. The facility shakes to its very core. Without mist pylons powering the structure, the nameless entity that resides within is free, and its days are numbered, as are yours. The mountain groans and trembles, threatening to collapse all around you. Alright. Which one of those are good? Which one of those are the good ending? If I just randomly read you one of them, if you didn't know, and you were like, okay, which one's the bad one? Right? Like if you didn't know both of them, both of those sound bad, don't they? I'm right at the edge of the earth, but is it even worth... yeah, go for it. Play Arkham, right? Have fun playing Arkham. The act does make it clear the entity is dying. Cool. Cool. Its days are numbered. That number could be 1 to eons. Like, it gives you no context to, like, what you're doing is good or bad. It just says it's free, and its days are numbered, but that day could be tomorrow, or it could be 300 millennia from now, right? And this is like my problem with it. There's nothing that makes this feel like a win for me. And in the final scenario, there should be a win. There should be a W. And I don't care that Kensler turns into the entity. It's a little bit hokey for me, to be honest. Fair, isn't that pretty common in this game? Like, you're doing the right thing and the bad thing still happens? I feel like people don't listen. It doesn't, I can't. Don't be. No, it's okay. But It's this in combination that no matter what, you're doing the whole thing again. You do all this stuff, but it's like, fucking climb up the ramp. Go up the ramp, brother. The ramp is there. Get up it. No matter what you do, you have to do the ramp. Right? Like, if this was just flip, hey, you did it. You've sealed the creature. Or, like, it's broken and you just, the creature, like, retreats and you're going to just, like, leave with the mystery, the victory music. That's good. That gives you, you're going to just skip the dumb ramp. I hate the ramp. The ramp sucks. Does anyone like playing the ramp? Because if you do, I'm happy for you. I am. I'm legitimately very happy, but I hate the ramp. And I hate this. I do not like it. Man shouts at old ramp. That's me. I hate the ramp. Yeah, it's just in combination with everything. Where, like, it basically says, hey, no matter what you did, you have to get out of here. Go on the ramp no matter what. It's just like, you do this big victory, you do it. You're finally like, we got every fucking mist pylon down. We did the whole thing. We beat it. I gotta do the ramp? Are you kidding me? Like, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, you do good. You got every fucking thing. And then you just still have to do the ramp again. Just give me this. Like, give me the same text, but, like, the creature's, like, its days are numbered. It's retreating away. It knows that you got to get out of here. You climb up the ramp. You did it. Be nice if they give you a ladder shortcut or something. Yeah, that would also be, that would make it slightly better. But to me, when I got here, I did it. I was like, I'm finished the scenario. And they're like, nope, clean up, set up the ramp, climb up the ramp. Spend a few more turns playing the game, even though you feel like in your heart of hearts, the game should be over. And yes, I might be sounding a little bit deranged saying ramp as much as I did in the last 6 minutes, but it always, I think that's kind of the problem where, like, I play Edge of the Earth and I have such a great time, and then I play Heart of Madness Part 2 and I'm like, oh yeah, it's clunky, it's fiddly, I have to do a board wipe and clean, and I have to play the ramp, and there was no point in me trying to do it, you know? Like, that's the thing, right? It's all these things that compound together into a very annoying finale. Because it's like Devour Below. Just set yourself as best as you can, right? Just set yourself as best as you can. There's no need to actually try in the scenario. Because no matter what, you know what you're doing, chat. You're climbing that fucking ramp. But overall, I think that Edge of the Earth is a good campaign. I still quite like a lot of it. Like, Forbidden Peaks is fantastic. It's a great scenario. I like Heart of Madness Part 1. I like the majority of the parts of Ice and Death. I like City of the Elder Things. I think it's a fun one. Is there a special resolution if you fail to kill all the pylons but survive the ramp? Alright, Resolution 1. Dr. Kensler. Resolution 2. We win the campaign. We win the campaign? We escape the facility. I can't tell what any of these are because there's so much text I need to read. For now, ... Resolution 3 is the one. So the team escaped the facility. I'm not sold on it. I'm not sold on it. Oh, yeah, I'm not sold on it. All right, I think we can end this this thing here. I think we can say goodbye to this video, but I do give Edge of the Earth, I think, a thumbs up on this one. It's a good campaign. I dig it. I dig it. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to see me do this for more campaigns, let me know down in the comments and for other topics as well. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Have a good one. And as always, the GGs.